All right, welcome back to TCI headquarters. Time for our preview and prediction video. This week we get to talk about a Miami team that, gosh, what were they ranked when the season started? I know somebody had them top 10,
yeah.
some of the analysts. And
Top 15, I think, consensus. Just
yes,
about most
they
part.
were. The U was back. The U has not been back, but they've still got some talent.
Yeah.
So we'll get to see them visit Death Valley this weekend.
Dan Radakovich Bowl.
Dan Radakovich Bowl. Dabo said either Sunday night or one time he said, "Well, we ought to have Dan and Graham go do the coin toss or something." It'd be interesting to see Dan and have him back in Death Valley and a lot of the stuff that he built around here. And I think Graham will probably have a little more fun Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm not teasing my prediction, but I think he might have the better day this week. Davis, let's talk about this game. Let's talk about the keys. I think the big, we've had the last 3 weeks have just been almost bipolar in what we've seen from the teams each week and just different things. And what are your keys for this week?
Well, I think offensively, run the ball because this passing game is just so Jekyll and Hyde, and really there's just not a lot of explosiveness to it. I know we talked about it in our Tuesday Tiger Talk video, but there's so many short passes, so much screen game in this offense, and just there's not a lot of explosiveness to what they're doing right now. And I just think if Clemson can't run the ball and you're sitting there and having to drop back on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, 3rd and long all game, I don't think that's going to work for this Clemson offense. That's not what this Clemson offense is strongest at. So I think you've seen that in the last few games. Even the Syracuse game. The last 2 games they've lost the turnover deficit, yet they've won against Syracuse and Louisville because they've rushed for 240 plus yards in both of those games, almost 300 against Syracuse. So that's been the way they've been able to. When they've been able to hold on to the ball, which is something else we can talk about later, but they've been able to move the ball on the ground, and particularly at home. They've just they've gotten that running game going. The crowd sort of fed off of that. They've been able to really do that. And I just think that, and Dabo's even said it, when I asked him, last week about what is the identity of this offense, and he came out and said, we're built to run the football. So if that's what you believe in, you need to be able to do that pretty consistently. And they have done that. 2 of their last 3 wins, and you look at the Notre Dame loss, season low 90 yards rushing. So, that's a big part.
And the interesting thing is, one of the things we heard in the offseason after last year was we heard from Dabo time after time and Streeter, in order to be an elite team, you've got to be able to throw the ball in today's college football. You've got to have a good passing game. You've got to be able to throw the ball. Here we are going into week 11.
We're talking about the run game.
We haven't seen that this year. We saw more of that, Wake Forest game. We saw some sprinkles of that here and there, but we just haven't seen a consistent threat from the passing game, and that's quite frankly disappointing. Some of that goes to the quarterback. Some of that may go to the receivers.
Play calling.
What we got there, play calling, whatever the different reasons are, it's not where you need to be. So one of the questions is, how does Clemson get to where they need to be? You mentioned the running the ball. I'm going to go on the other side of the ball, and I'd like to see a consistent, back-to-back weeks, a strong defensive performance. Yeah. Even if we go back to Notre Dame, defense did not play well in that game. They got run all over, but they still played good enough where you should have been in that game if you had any semblance of offense. Last week, the defense, really strong, still gave up some big plays, that last score, things like that, but I want to see the attack mode. I want to see more consistency on that side of the ball. Miami's a team that struggled. They're playing a little bit different quarterback now, so there's going to be more of a running threat back there than what we would have seen from Miami early in the year. But Clemson's defense, I want to see them play like they're capable for a second week in a row. And if they do that, then I think Clemson will be set up. And I want to see, the good crowd. Obviously, everybody will show up for South Carolina. They need to show up this week, too. There's a reason Clemson's won 39 in a row at home, and, teams just don't do that. Yeah. So that's a pretty special thing. Some of the players this week talked about that, and, how the seniors going out, they can win the next 2. Yeah. They'll be able to come back 20 years from now and say, oh, well, I never lost at home when I was there, which is just really, really rare. So those are some of the things we're looking for. Let's talk about predictions. Davis, what are you looking at from a score standpoint?
Well, I picked Clemson to lose last week at home, so I'm just gonna, until they lose a game at home, I'm gonna pick them to win at home. You're right though. I mean, you talked about just how bipolar this team has been in recent weeks. It's just hard to sit here and say, oh, this is definitely what's going to happen with this team. But I think with a freshman quarterback, if they end up playing the Ja'Cory Brown kid at quarterback,
I thought you were going to talk about Cade for a minute.
I think I just don't think Miami's offense will be able to piece together long drives consistently against this Clemson defense, which is it goes back to your point of some of the explosive plays they've given up. But I think Clemson has to prevent some of those, because that's the one way Miami can sort of quick strike you and not have to put together 10, 12 play drives is if they can hit some long runs or some deep passes on you. So, but I just don't think Miami's offense is at a spot right now where they can consistently do that against this Clemson defense that's playing at home, and we'll have the home crowd, behind it. So I'm gonna say Clemson wins this game, and I'm gonna pick them to cover. So I'm gonna go Clemson 30, Miami 20.
All right, we're gonna cover this week. All right, I went a little lower last week. Was close on the opponent score. Was a little low on the Clemson score. Figures I go low and then they go a little bit higher. I mean, it seems to me like Davis in a good game this year. This is a Clemson team, and in a good, decent offensive performance, they're going to give you something in the 30s.
Yeah.
We're not seeing high 40s. We're not seeing 50s.
Nope.
I think the defense on Clemson will do a good job. I think attacking that young quarterback is probably a pretty good formula. Probably maybe force some mistakes, maybe see some turnovers, go the other direction for a change. I'm going to go stay in that 30s range. I'm going to go Clemson 35, Miami 10. So I'm looking for a nice, comfortable win. I'd like to get enough lead where they might actually put the backup quarterback in and actually let him throw the football instead of just putting him in the handoff football.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see Cade finish the football game.
There you go.
Right, but we'll see how that goes. The biggest thing is get a win and get some more experience. But should be another fun day. It's great finishing the season with these 3 home games, especially with how good Clemson is at home. So we'll have everything covered all weekend long. Stay tuned to TCI for the most complete coverage of Clemson football.